the Empath Sisters. Join these two healing sisters, Bev and Shelly Greenlaw, walking the path of spirituality and are here to share their experiences and guidance within the realms of energy, intuition, spirit, and beyond.
Hi, welcome back to Empath Sisters. I am your host, Shelly Greenlaw, and my co-host that's joining me today is Bev Lazar. And I am so excited to come back onto this episode because we are introducing a guest today. And
Yes,
we are super, super excited to have our guest. Her name is Alecia Iwanchuk, and she is going to be talking to us today about Kundalini Energy and her story and what it's all about. And I do know a little bit of Kundalini. I know that Bev has not too much knowledge, I think, right? When it comes to Kundalini. So it's going to be sort of a good learning episode for us, I think, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've heard of it, I've seen it, you know, like other people sharing about it and their experiences. And I've also, it's funny how, as Shelly and I always usually share in our episodes, things that show up in our practices, things that people are talking about, or it's kind of like what we call like the theme of the day or the week or whichever. And this is since Alecia has come into my awareness and my journey, just prior to that is when I started getting clients that were talking to me about Kundalini energy and the differences between Kundalini and Reiki energy and how they feel it. And some maybe have had the experience of Kundalini energy and they'll express to me their experience and how they feel it. And so they'll ask for my opinion on it. And I'm like, I'm not really sure if maybe I've had Kundalini awakening. Maybe that's not my journey, and maybe mine is what I've been doing now. And so it was really amazing that Alecia just came into my awareness and my journey and has this experience in Kundalini energy. And she's such a beautiful soul. And I'm so grateful that she has been willing to join us on our podcast and to share Kundalini energy with us and all of you that follow us and listen to us. And so it's going to be a wonderful learning experience. And we're going to hear her story and her experiences. And Shelly and I, of course, are going to ask some questions along the way. But we're hoping that you will love her just as much as we do. So welcome, Alecia.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. I'm honored to be here. Really happy to be sharing this space with you and with your listeners. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming
I'd love
on.
to hear if you are willing to share your story and how Kundalini, what I've heard is that it's called a Kundalini awakening. What does that mean? Not sure. I do know people go through many energetic awakenings. And maybe some of them are called Kundalini and maybe some of them are called other things, but I've heard people reference Kundalini as an awakening within their body as what I know. So I would love to hear how this all started for you.
I feel like it might be helpful to start with the mechanics
Love
of
it.
a Kundalini awakening and how it has been described as moving through the body.
Yes.
And this goes back way to like early texts like the Hatha Yoga Pradipika in like 11th century. They're explaining this energy that exists in human beings, lying dormant at the base of the spine. And so Kundalini means she who is coiled. So it's often referred to as a feminine energy, as a Shakti, that Shakti energy or life force energy.
Right.
Okay. And it directly is connected to the chakra system. So, you know, we have the 7 chakras.
Yes.
And specifically in our solar plexus, which is like that fiery energy, our will drive, when we activate that energy there, and this is just the mechanics of it. So when we activate that energy there, that's why the Kundalini yoga practices are connected to that, like the pranayama and the breath work and the movements connected with generating, stoking that fire. It's like your inner furnace.
Right.
Stoking your own inner energy. So then you stop grasping outside, right? You're using your own energy. So what happens essentially is when that energy gets activated, it shoots down, awakens the divine feminine, Shakti, Kundalini, and then together energy forces, the divine feminine, divine masculine, travel up through these nadis, through the chakras. As they do that, they twirl, like I think 3 times around, and then they come to rest in that third eye space, opening you to higher consciousness. What happens as this energy, this Shakti energy, that also has the divine masculine, so it's the two, it's not just the feminine, it's like the balance of energies, moves and clears out any like neuroses, any subconscious wounds in your chakras as it moves up, because that's how it's able to move up and clear, so the energy can keep going and get to the opening to the third eye space. And so in ancient yogic texts, this is known as, you would get the siddhis, which is spelled Siddhis, and these are your intuitive superpowers, your clairsentience, your clairknowing, your clairseeing, your like all of those. And now it's specifically said that that's not supposed to be the intention or the goal of doing the practice, but rather the liberation of the soul. But I mean, so that's actually what happens energetically.
Yes.
Now, the experience of that is a little different.
Yeah, I'm sure it's different for everyone, depending on, what their energy is like as well. And so I do have a question. So when you said, the masculine and the feminine energy, are you saying like it's kind of like, kind of intertwining with each other, going up?
So the left side of our body that connects to the right side of our brain is the divine feminine.
Yeah.
The nadi is called Ida.
Okay.
Whereas the right side of our body is that divine masculine connected to the left side of our brain. That's Pingala. So it's said that Ida and Pingala rise up through the body, through the central nadi channel, which is called Sushumna. And by that release of energy coming up through the body in equal parts is what actually helps for the balancing and for the clearing. It's like we need both. All hands on deck.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Okay.
So I started on my journey in 2020. I went through a divorce, and I had been doing yoga since 2015.
Okay.
I was like, I should do my yoga teacher training. Then right away was led to Kundalini shortly thereafter. And so from 2020 to 2023, like I opened my business, Intentions Yoga, and I was working with Vinyasa and Kundalini, but also like studying, went into like a huge spiritual awakening, right? And knowledge. I just like was so spiritually hungry for every bit of like esoteric knowledge I could get my hands on, everything from like star seeds to the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn to like everything. Give me all of it.
Yeah.
And then like the ancient yogic texts as well. And in 2023, it was actually the last week in March 2023, I had a week-long Kundalini awakening experience. That was like out of this world.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, it started like it was a week long. It started on a Wednesday, ended on a Wednesday, like came to a peak. It was very similar to like doing a psychedelic where you peak, and at the peak, actually, my third eye did open. I was flying through space. And then it came down, and I did start to get a little scared at the end that I wasn't going to come down because I could not exist in that space. Like I couldn't exist in our world in that space. And I also like, I feel like so inspired to talk about this because had I not had the knowledge, had I not done all the research, I wouldn't have known what was happening to me. And I might have went and took myself to the hospital. I might have gotten drugged. And that would have been the worst possible thing to do because the doctors would have thought I was completely psychotic. Like the way I was interpreting energy was so different. Like all my clairs were opened. So when it started, it was just like this weird seeping in feeling of like when I would think of things, like my thoughts would go back to like just these bigger, deeper understandings of the universe, right? To the point it was so intense, like I had to leave work because I would just stare at my computer screen. I was working at the law firm at the time. I was just staring at my computer screen and just going back with all this deep, deep knowledge. Now, what happened for me at the peak was I would fall asleep. I would go into a dream of something I needed to heal, but then I would wake up. So I wasn't sleeping much, and I would face what was kind of before hidden in my subconscious. I was facing that now, and I was using tools. I was working with earth, air, fire, and water to like heal this wound that had come up. And so at the peak, that is what was happening to me. And now I haven't really heard other people talk about this, but this can kind of be thought of as like the clearing out of my chakras, right? Where those wounds were stuck, those subconscious wounds. And I know like Carl Jung has done a lot of work on Kundalini, but like back in the 1930s, I find that stuff very hard to get into, but I feel like I might find some answers there. But I was able to like see these things that I had not faced, but that were there, keeping me in a low vibration. And I went through this process of clearing them out. And then it was like I was living in the conscious realm and in the subconscious realm. I could look at everything in my house and I could see all the background information of why I had chose like to put that picture on the wall, all the information that was collected around it.
That's cool.
It was like a lot. It was
that
a
would
lot.
Be very
like I was
overwhelming.
Very, very overwhelmed and very tired by the end. Oh, and then like there's so many things. Like there's so much that happened in that week. I could only exist in present time. If I wanted to make a meal, I could open my fridge, I could make the best meal. Like it was awesome. I would know exactly what to do next, but to like plan to go to the store to buy groceries to make a meal, like I couldn't. And this is when I realized like this interpretation of time is when I realized that I had previously had my first Kundalini experience in 2003, which I didn't know what it was at the time. I was using drugs heavily, and I had this experience where it's like my soul came to the forefront, holding me in the present moment. And from that present moment, I had to make a decision. And the decisions I made there were going to change the trajectory of my life. And I knew that. And I was held in that space. I got rid of all my paraphernalia, moved 2 provinces away, got clean, never looked back.
Wow.
And it was just like, I didn't know that was that experience that I had until even reflecting on the second Kundalini. And I was like, wait, they were kind of the same.
Right.
And so, and so I think, like, and I even like today, people will call them like spiritual crisis and, even like a mental breakdown. But I think what differentiates maybe a mental breakdown from a spiritual awakening is maybe knowledge of what's happening to you. And then also, where does the energy take you after? Because in both times, both awakenings, my life has transformed significantly for the better.
Amazing.
Completely. At the end, so it like came up and I kind of went through that dream and I was just like, please be done, because it was getting like a lot. It was a lot. I got through it, and there was almost like I did this initiation of this salt bath, and it's like I knew all these things to do, and like, wow, it was out of this world. And then the last day, I was cleaning and I was like scrubbing the corners of my house. I'd gotten rid of a bunch of stuff and I was singing these beautiful Gaelic hymns. And it was as if like, okay, I'm gonna try and explain this. This is kind of intense, but
Love it.
it was like um it was like a 1980s fun pop music with like if I would have had like lace white gloves and there was this voice singing like I'm coming down to the ground, gonna take us down. And it was like my soul was like coming in, but it was like, yeah, like 80s pop. It was so fun.
Amazing.
And it was, yeah, it was like grounding my earth angel, I felt like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, that's incredible. That is incredible. I have a question about when you were talking, when you explained the week to week, the Wednesday to the Wednesday, and you kind of hit this peak, and you had mentioned that you as you were clearing and moving through things, you used, elements to heal. How did you know that? Was it just the information was there, it was told to you, or you had this knowing of like, I need to do this and I need to use this and this is going to clear this, or I don't know if it's going to clear it, I just need to do this, and then you discovered that using those properties helped you to heal or whatever was being present at the time? I would love to know that if you have an answer to it or not.
I do, because
Awesome.
it was very very important to me, those elements. On the Thursday evening, like it started on Wednesday, so I was still kind of in normal life. Thursday, I had a yoga class, and I had a dear friend of mine over after who was trying to teach me how to spin fire with these cool little props she has.
Okay.
She did this one move, and it was like earth, air, fire, water. And my brain was like earth to ground, air to heal, fire to burn, water to clear. And for whatever reason, that like resonated so deeply in my mind. It was almost like, and like the move she did was like very doom, doom, doom. It was like, I don't know, it was like imprinting it into my brain.
Yeah.
And so I was really using those when things got incredibly, I would say they got kind of dark. And yeah, then it would be whatever information came up from the wound, from the pain, from the trauma. I knew what to apply to heal it. So I was throwing things off my deck into the backyard to ground. I was flushing things down the toilet. I would burn things, but it was usually going through the whole motions. And then at the end, I would find myself sitting down and just breathing like an air to heal, right? So it was like I was breathing it out. It felt like knowledge that I knew exactly what to do. Like I was even like chanting things.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it was just this whole thing was playing out and I knew exactly what to do, but I did not know where it came from. So
it was just there.
Like maybe a past life.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because a lot of from the time that you started sharing your story here, as I've been listening, all these little pieces and words that you have said is like, oh, so much aligns with a lot of like the knowledge that I have, as you talked about, the mechanics of it all and the physical, being in the root chakra. And then you talked about, you had mentioned the word, I think you said divine, no. Oh, how did you say it? Oh man. It was like a universal divine energy.
Shakti.
Nope. Something else you said. I'm trying to think of it. It's very no. Sorry. Okay, I lost it. Well, you had said this word and it just jumped out at me where I was like, that of divine origin. That's what you had said. And that is very much in like the language in Reiki that I speak as well, is of divine origin and this energy that sits within you and that we use. And then even some of your experiences in this that you're sharing, it very much sounds like past life recalls, and as you're explaining things, and to me that would be unlocking, people coming into your life or things that were happening that were being presented in front of you that were unlocking codes for you to remember. And so this information is there, which is not, I'm not saying that that's your experience. I'm not going to put that on you, but it just from what I've heard, working with other people going through awakenings as well, maybe not necessarily knowing it as a Kundalini awakening, but also a spiritual awakening where some of these things are also showing up. And this is part of some of the language that they might be expressing as well. And so it just, to me, in my language, it seems like so much has unlocked and you knew it, you needed to move through it. And this was your awakening. And that is really amazing. And just the knowing and how you moved through it. And yeah, it's just really incredible. I'm sure that was very intense is what it sounds like it might have been for one to go through all of that all at once in a short period of time. Would you say that that's how you felt?
Yeah, it was like I think on the Monday, like after kind of the peak on the weekend and Monday, I did call my dad. I needed to like tell somebody what I was going through and
Yeah.
feel like just in case, like I don't know, because I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if I could, like I couldn't go to work in that state and I wasn't sure when it was going to end.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was very, very intense.
Yeah. Would you say at all that you felt fear or scared at all, or did you somehow have this feeling and knowing that this is just something you were moving through?
You know, I it went to like some people what that I talked to because then I like went to try and figure out like and read other people's stories and some people just have these like amazing bliss experiences and I'm like mine wasn't completely like that. Mine was like
Yeah.
a lot of like figuring stuff out. There was blissful moments for sure.
Yeah.
And but yeah, like there was one point when I felt like the energy went so high that it almost felt like I felt like I was reckoning to it not to like divinity, but to like the simulation. And I was like, there's nothing else. There is only me. And at that point, I felt scared. I felt lonely. I wasn't like, oh, I'm part of bliss. I'm part of everything. I'm like, well, I'm just all alone.
Right.
Oh.
So, but I did like, thank God for YouTube and, listening to other people's stories and all that. So like I was
Yeah.
able to bring myself back down from that. But
Yeah.
yeah, when it touched into that, I
Yeah.
was like, that was very uncomfortable.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I have a question. So
Yeah.
when you took this 1 week Kundalini, like what would you call it? Like a retreat? Or was it like you just did it on your own, or did you go somewhere to do this?
I was just sitting at my desk job when it started. No,
Okay.
like I was,
Okay.
there was no, there
Like
was
no warning.
no warning. No, it
Yeah.
just happened.
Okay.
No reason, something triggering it
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
to come up or happen. It just
It just
started.
started. I think it was like a
Okay.
culmination of all the work I had done. And it was
Yeah.
like, okay, almost like, okay, you've gotten to this far. We're just going to put you in fast forward for a minute so you can get over a bunch of stuff so that you can like really start
Yeah.
moving forward. Because there was still like, yeah, like I was still struggling a bit. I mean, even after that, I still like was struggling a little bit to pull myself fully into, where I really wanted to be.
Okay.
So yeah, there was no it was just like a normal day. It would just be like
Yeah.
today, all of a sudden after this, I start having it just kind of the energy starts rising and rising and rising, and I start getting like clearer and clearer and clearer.
Okay.
But like I have talked to some of my friends who have done like ayahuasca,
Yeah.
and some of the more mental stuff that I was experiencing was much like an ayahuasca trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I was curious
Yeah.
because I wasn't sure, because I do know some people who have gone, other places of the world and taken these Kundalini retreats and trying to get to that
Right.
experience, right? And which I feel that would be amazing, of course, but at the same time, like I guess I'm feeling for you is that like you did it on your own, like you didn't have anybody to like I guess I wouldn't say support you, but I
Watch
guess
you
in a
and
way, or
sit with
watch.
you
Yeah.
and
Like,
yeah.
so it made me go, wow,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, like I would want, for me, like if that happened to me, I know I would be very scared and fearful and overwhelmed. And I would want somebody to be with me or to have that support, I guess, to go through that. So I was just curious, like, yeah, like what even Bev said and asked you, like, did you have fear coming in? And you said, like, at certain times you did, and sometimes you had
Yeah.
bliss. And like, it's like amazing to me that you did this, like, and it just came up. Like,
But I
I
could
don't,
also see how it just comes out of nowhere that
yeah.
that might not be fearful. It's just
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times when we're in the present moment, it's just you just are moving through it and you don't
Yeah.
really know anything fearful until or scary or
Well,
hard or anything that until it just shows up,
right.
Mm.
and so maybe we don't think about, oh my
Mhm.
God, I gotta hang on, like I feel like
Yeah.
nobody just, intuitively wise just said, hey, Alecia, you're gonna go on a week-long ride and this is what's gonna happen, and so then we're preparing now for it. It just crept in and you
Yeah, like
went
I
you
think
went through it.
I was doing some ritual magic work and like my Kundalini practices, and I do daily sadhanas and daily kriyas. So
Mm-hmm.
my body mind was prepped, and I
Right.
was
Yeah.
every day like listening to, like all that esoteric information. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like I was feeding my vessel everything it needed. And then I did actually, right before the experience, I did meet this guy who I think there must be like some past life. And when you said you meet people and it unlocks things, I
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
think it was like, yes, if you meet him, you're gonna unlock your stuff. We're not together anymore, but it was great. Like it was a great character building relationship
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
But it was like I met him a few days later, all this stuff happened. So
Wow. So
Okay.
just
yeah.
unlocked.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely think like there was something there.
For sure. For sure.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Amazing. Yeah. I was just curious because, like I said, I just want our listeners to know, like, that, it doesn't always necessarily happen when you go to, a Kundalini,
Hmm.
a retreat, or, when you're doing just Kundalini yoga, once a
Mm-hmm.
week, that type of thing, which is nice to hear you say that it does prepare you. So for, when or if it ever happens for someone,
Yeah.
right? So it's just amazing to me that, for you, it was like you knew, you prepared yourself, but yet you didn't know, and it was just
Right.
happening.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
cool.
Well, what my Kundalini yoga teacher told me, or was part of her teaching, was that like it's sort of whether or not you're going to have awakening is in your soul contract. So
Mm-hmm.
you can work with a guru, you can have the intention to have the awakening and actually never have one. And
Right.
then
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people actually have spontaneous Kundalini awakenings, and that's where the fear comes in because they have no idea what's happening to them.
Right.
And
Yeah.
if it's not just bliss, there's a little bit of like healing of the wounding and like the
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
psychosis that's coming up, that can be
Yeah.
rather scary. And like I do wonder if a lot of people that are in mental institutions are in fact actually going through some kind of a natural um healing,
Yep.
Yeah.
unveiling of the wounded
I agree.
subconscious to be
Yeah.
dealt with on in
Yeah.
reality.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
And I have definitely hearing your story it reminded me of a lot of clients that I have worked with that have gone through what I would say society has named, calls psychosis
Mm.
episodes. And so, but yet it'll be for a week or two, a period of time. And then it just is kind of like over and they don't really know why that happened.
Right.
Mhm.
It just because it just comes on, it's not induced in any way.
Mhm.
So that has been, and this is where I've worked with them of like, to me, I called it like they're moving through a spiritual awakening, but
Yeah.
possibly it could be also be called a Kundalini awakening as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've been thinking about like, we don't have any conscious control of like when our bodies are physically growing when we're
Mm-hmm.
little,
Yep.
Right.
right? So same with our consciousness
Yep.
eventually needs to grow too.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And I think there's got to be something with how we hold our experiences. And if, where society is telling you, okay, you're a mental case and you got to be drugged and take, instead of holding that in reverence for like, oh, you went through an experience where you saw into yourself something that not everybody sees and can experience. It's a very subjective, but it's a, an experience to be held in reverence, not in like almost like, oh, be quiet, take your pills, don't tell anybody that happened.
Right. Of course. Yes.
Mm.
Which I can see why that would happen in two ways. One way is there might not be that understanding and that knowledge to support somebody through that. And it's that level of consciousness when we do go through something where if we are very much in what I call a 3D state, a 3D level of consciousness and understanding, they might not have the knowledge to understand an experience that is beyond that. And so therefore it's like, okay, well, that's weird. I don't understand, but hey, let's not talk about it. Or you might be going through something when we look at it as more of like chemically in the brain or something that you're going through. And so this is where they only know how to maybe support somebody through medication, and that's, and maybe there is that happening. Maybe there is that too, that side of it. And maybe there's the energetic consciousness side of it that's also unfolding too.
Yeah.
Hard to know. But
I think whatever we focus on will create, right?
As a society. Absolutely. Absolutely.
We can make it what we want it.
That's true.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you talked about being prepped, can you explain a little bit about that and what your practices are?
Okay.
And where what you mean by that?
Yeah. So I think in 2022, I spent a year in a Hermetic mystery school. So learning, it was a lot of shadow work, and a lot of like ancient rituals. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the LBRP, Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram, which sounds so like far out. It's not as like crazy. It's what you're doing. You're calling the four corners with the archangels, with the elements, with the directions, and you're actually, what you're banishing is your ego, so that the fifth element, your soul, can step through.
Right.
So I don't know why I was doing this every morning for like a year. And I think it like helps to awaken your consciousness, like to put your mind into that space. So I was doing that along with, my Vinyasa yoga practice, along with my Kundalini yoga practice. There's one Kriya I would do. It's a 40-day Kriya called Sat Kriya that focuses primarily on the sacral and the solar plexus, channeling your energy up. A lot of what we do for movement in Kundalini yoga practice is you're asked to squeeze your bandhas, which are these energetic lock points in your body, to squeeze those, and then you close your eyes and you focus on your third eye. So you're actually like physically trying to like move your energy up, at least like consciously and intentionally, whether or not it's actually doing that, but where attention goes, energy flows. So I think it was like a culmination like of those two, and then, starting to pay attention to the rhythms of the moon and how she was affecting me. And astrology, and like seeing like as within, so without, like everything was coming, like that was my spiritual awakening, was like starting to realize that broader scope of what's going on.
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
It's
so
amazing.
then
So go ahead, Shelly.
I was just going to say, so once you've done all of this and you went through your your awakening, your Kundalini awakening, what did you do next? What made you do what you're doing today?
Well, so I had already started my business prior to the awakening.
Okay.
I feel like it really helped. I feel like it pulled me across many different timelines, almost like, and to bring me more into alignment with how I'm going to better serve.
Okay.
To get rid of some of the things that were holding me back that I wasn't consciously aware of. I mean, and the healing journey, I don't think is ever over. And like,
No, yeah.
I'm still in the oven, but
Yeah. I love that. I'm still in the oven.
but
Love it.
but it did help me see like different things that I needed to bring my focus to.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so I just, it kind of like I was on the right path, but it kind of had to like bring it, make it more aligned,
Yeah.
more, I had to, yeah, just
Yeah.
it like that fast forward, like I talked about, I just had to
Yeah.
fast forward through some stuff so that I could be at a place where I was better meant to serve. And like, I mean, even today, I still reflect on it and can still pull pieces of wisdom from
Yeah.
it. And know it happened for a reason. I know I'm supposed to share.
Yep.
But yeah, like the journey continues.
For sure.
Of
It sure
course.
does.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you feel like when you started your business that there were things that you were working towards and where where your intention goes, that energy flows, right? And so maybe there was things that you were working on, because in my understanding, there's a lot that I know that's out there in like the 5D consciousness that I'm bringing in and creating to happen in our 3D world.
Mhm.
And so do you feel like there was things that you were focusing upon and working towards and trying to bring in, that this also like kind of shifted you to be like, okay, you need to go through this fast forward in order to hop onto this timeline to
Mhm.
bring you into this place of where you desire to be, to kind of like align you to what it is that you wanted to do? Would you say that that is possibly
Yeah,
something?
absolutely. Like I think that whole like creating intentions yoga and that whole thing, it's almost like a part of me was going before me and creating what I
Yeah.
needed to align and step into. It was like holding myself to that higher standard.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny, like a lot of my life was lived unintentionally. And then so that I
Right.
came to, and I called it intentions yoga before I really had a big understanding about intentions. But
Love
then I
it.
grew into, wow, now like everyone, like just the whole intentionality will surface and rise and
Yeah.
be like revealed to me as to how important that is for
Right.
my journey and to share that with other people for their journey.
Yeah.
So yeah, for
Yeah, for
sure.
sure. That's cool. Yeah, because
Wonderful.
I've seen a lot of people go through. I always use the radio analogy of like shifting through. And I always say, like, sometimes when we switch stations and we go through that staticky period, that's usually when we're like, we feel really lost. It's like pretty gross. Like we kind of hit the rock bottom, so to speak. It's just, and sometimes they're easier than others. Sometimes they're really hard, and sometimes they are short and quick, like so
Mm.
fast, like an eclipse, where it's just like bang, bang, bang. You're moving through so much stuff so harshly and fast, and some are just long and drawn out. And yeah, it's just that's what it reminds me of just moving through things to get you to where you need to be. And that's what I try to explain to people too when they are moving through an awakening, is just like, this needs to happen in order. And what I do know is that when we're in those states, is that I know now from experience that once I get through it on the other side, it's going to be way more amazing than where I was always. It's always just so incredible once we get through it. So I kind of just go, oh, okay, I'm moving through something right now. Don't know what that looks like or what that's going to be, but I do know that it's going to be really good once I get through it, however long that's going to take.
Yeah, I went through, I guess, like the dark night of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
And from even though I had started my business and I was like, yes, and I want to teach yoga and I'm really into spirituality and I want to bring that into my teachings. It's like I knew that. I knew the goal in the end, but where I
Yeah.
was in like connection to that, there was so much to go through. And yeah, I went through a dark night of the soul probably for a good like 2 years.
Wow.
I just didn't want to give up old ways of being, old ways of
Mm,
existing. And I just,
yeah.
Yep.
and my calling, I had to. I had to show up in a certain way.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to feel aligned with that if I didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So when you went through the second awakening,
Mhm.
going through it, did you, I can't remember if you had said that you knew it was a Kundalini awakening that you were moving through, or was that something that came to you as a reflection after you moved through it?
Well, yeah. And I mean, still to this day, I still read stuff and I'm like, I guess I need to make a meaning of it.
Yeah.
And that is the meaning I have made, is that it's a Kundalini awakening. That seems to make sense with my training and
Right.
with the like how it presented itself.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But no, when I was going through the experience, I guess I knew I was going through a spiritual experience.
Yeah.
I was actually for a while even not sure if I should call it a Kundalini awakening, because I'm like, oh, maybe these are like, people often said like the heat in the spine, and you feel
Mm-hmm.
like this rising power through your spine. I felt energy raising, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have any like burning in my spine.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this could be because my body was already prepped from doing a lot of yoga. And then I
Right.
read one book that was like, oh no, the burning in the spine doesn't happen. And then one book says it
Of
does.
course.
And it's
Yeah.
like, well, I don't know. So
Yeah.
But that's the
I
thing
don't
though,
know.
when it,
I knew I was going through an experience.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, and that's just it. Like everybody, like you had already mentioned earlier, like not everybody's going to have the same experiences. Nobody is
No,
going to, right? So they
definitely.
might, and that's their version, right? Anything that is written out there, it's their version, their experience. So everybody's going to
Mm-hmm.
have different ones, and you can read, you know, all
All the
types
books.
of, yeah,
Yeah.
and you're gonna grab those pieces if you need to, but at the same time, your experience is going to be totally different than anybody's.
Yeah.
Maybe you did like maybe somebody will have a little bit of burning. Maybe they won't, like,
Mm-hmm.
they might even feel totally something different that isn't even written about yet, so
That's true.
Yeah, like I think it's how, what are you coming to the table with? What are
that's
your
right.
Yeah.
wounds? What is your like
Mm-hmm.
composure? What's in your subconscious? Because all of that, and like I think the archetypes come in here, and I think what you've been
Yeah.
exposed to, your past life um experiences, all that's
Yeah,
gonna play in
for
to
sure.
help
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when I was falling through those dreams and then waking up, when it first started, Queen Mob pulled me through the veil, and then I
Mm-hmm.
woke up. Now, Queen Mob is like the fairy queen from Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, just that's just how
Makes
my
sense.
mind was interpreting that, like for me, right?
Right.
So somebody
Yeah.
could have something completely different depending on
Yeah.
what's in their psyche.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Amazing.
That's cool. Yeah, no, it's cool because it's like your awakenings and the information that you have and the knowledge that you have, it aligns with you probably, I would imagine, to call it a Kundalini awakening based off of, already what's sitting within you. Where
Mm-hmm.
for me, that the yoga world, the language of it all, that doesn't is not in my awareness. I know
Right.
for Shelly, she's taken yoga training and
I
teaching
have.
and things
Yeah.
like that. And so she's got more of that language within her. And so for me, I'd be like, man, I moved through a lot of spiritual awakenings for myself. And this happened to me and this happened to me. But it's just based off of all the knowledge and wisdom that I have come with, that's moved me through those too. And so I just
Mhm.
love it because, and again, we're all going to have experiences. And that's what I love sharing, is like all of our experiences, because even though you move through that, I'm like, man, there's so many pieces of your experience that resonates with experiences that I've had. And this is
Right.
like how we all connect with each other. And that's what I love. And so it's just, sharing more experiences amongst our listeners too, because maybe they've had some of those pieces too that were like, oh man, that resonates with me, but I didn't know what that was.
Mhm.
And so it's just to help give them some more support or knowledge of maybe a guidebook, even though people say all the time to me, oh, you're a psychic, you know everything. That must be so great. Well, I don't know everything, and I don't desire to know everything either. And so, yes, I do have, information that comes through, but sometimes we have no idea, and it doesn't really get revealed to us until the time is right. So,
Mhm.
just like your experience that you had in 2003, was that correct? Your first one?
Yeah, the first one was in 2003.
Yeah.
Yeah. So had you until you had your second one, then there was something for you to compare to and reflect on and be like, oh, there's something about this and this one that has shifted or changed something for you in your life for the better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
For
Oh,
sure.
that's really cool. And so can you tell us a little bit about what it is that you do and what do you offer? What is your business called? I know you've
Okay,
kind of
so
thrown that out
intentions
a couple
yoga.
times. Love it.
Yeah. And I offer online classes in Vinyasa and Kundalini. I offer in-person classes in Saskatoon. I'm
Amazing.
really moving into more of the one-on-one coaching. I have a coaching program called Awaken. It's a goal-oriented coaching program for women going through spiritual awakening who want to
Amazing.
anchor their awakening through their body and then to work and bring forth what they're supposed to be doing, right? Their soul gifts, that what lights them up, what makes them feel whole. And
Amazing.
so yeah, I seem to be transitioning more into that, which is it's taken me a while to try many different things
Yeah,
through my business, right? Because I'm like, I want to
of
share
course.
like the metaphysical aspect. I want to share
Yeah.
magic. I want to share yoga. And I had to try a bunch of stuff on and take
For
Yeah.
things
sure.
like all the way. And then to realize, okay, and recently, actually, just within the few months, it's really starting to streamline that Kundalini is the energy, is the frequency that wants to
Mhm.
come through me and be
Mhm.
Yeah.
shared.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be doing this over here, not supposed to be doing this over here. I'm supposed to be focusing and sharing Kundalini energy to help
Right.
Yes.
people connect, to share
Yeah.
that frequency. So that's what I do.
That's
Nice. And
amazing.
so, where can people find you other than Saskatoon? Do you have any socials that you would like to
I do,
share?
yeah. So my website, www.intentions-yoga.ca. I'm on YouTube, intentions-yoga. I'm really active
Amazing.
on Facebook, but just
Okay.
under Alecia Iwanchuk.
Okay.
And then I
Okay.
have Instagram, Intentions Yoga with Alecia, and like LinkedIn. I've got so much.
Awesome.
Yeah, which is great
LinkedIn
because
and this and all this other stuff. It's fine. I'm out
that's
there.
good. Good. Yeah,
Amazing.
we'll be sharing all of your links on our show
Yes,
notes and
Bless
so
you.
that people can, find you and hopefully reach out to
absolutely.
you, especially if they have any
Yes,
questions or anything, or even just get to meet you in person and work with
yeah,
you. So
yeah,
yeah, we definitely will
absolutely.
have all that. So yeah.
That's amazing. I have one last question I'd like to ask
Yeah.
with your yoga that you do, and you were mentioning that you do some vinyasa and Kundalini yoga. So, but my question would be on the Kundalini yoga is like, what would that practice look like? How does that differ from vinyasa or other types of yoga? If you're able to share that with us.
Yeah. So there is a practice called Kundalini Yoga that was brought to the West by Yogi Bhajan. Um, he's a controversial figure,
Okay.
and he has a lot of kriyas in there that are very helpful. I took my training with Gloria Latham from Australia, and so the practices are, if you can think of repetitive movements,
Okay.
um, breath work, mantra. So you have an opening mantra where you're tuning in,
Mm-hmm.
and then you will often work through kriyas, which are to get a specific outcome. Like I did one
Okay.
this morning that was to become forever beautiful or something like that. Like some of them have some funny names, or so there are a specific set of postures that you go through to get a desired outcome.
Okay.
And it's more, I want to use the word like staccato, whereas like vinyasa is like this,
Flowy.
Kundalini is like this.
Up,
So you're
down.
really
Okay.
moving the energy and you're holding things. And oftentimes you will hold your arms up, you will use your breath, but you're sitting like just in easy seat, but you got your
Okay.
hands up, you're breathing. And what happens is you become tired. You start to feel resistance in your mind.
Mm,
Stuff starts bubbling up. And what you do is you learn to breathe through that. You learn to calm your mind, even when you're starting to feel like all this resistance and this is stupid. Why am I doing this?
Right.
Calm that all. And that resiliency that you build on the mat through a Kundalini yoga practice is like, I'm really using it in my life right now. I can feel it when my students, especially when we're like holding our arms up, and there's this one called Ego Eradicator. You got your thumbs pointed and your arms are up and you're breathing and you're holding for like a couple minutes. Like the one sadhana I do, Sat Kriya, I hold my arms up above my head for 11 minutes and chant. And so what I tell them, because I can see the room start to like bubble and boil, and everybody's starting to kind of get like to their wits' end. And I say, recommit. Recommit. Hold your arms up, recommit to what you're doing. And it's so I can see now like how that actually works in real life as I'm moving through something myself, and I found myself saying, recommit, Alecia, recommit. These are times when you'll often fall off. You'll fall off your practices. And for me, sometimes I like, I'll go to those like coping mechanisms, like go grab a bottle of wine or, do stuff like that, or just lay on the couch and, gorge myself. It's like, no, recommit. And I've been doing that. And I've been recommitting to my practices. I've been recommitting to myself, recommitting to my past.
Yeah.
And so it is a way that you can use all the energy of your body in your life, in your past. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Because some people might hear your Kundalini energy experience and then think, oh, is that what's going to happen to me when I do Kundalini
That's why I was like,
and maybe.
It might
start something.
The best thing I've had happen to me from a practice afterwards is feeling very blissful, very neutral. Awesome. Your energy is just like, you feel like a lightness and you feel very neutral. And in that neutrality, there is that bliss and just contentment. That is the best thing I have felt after a Kundalini yoga practice. I'm seeing a lot of stuff online now of Kundalini and people like showing bodies like moving and they're like having their hands and stuff. And I did sign up to take one of those, and I don't know.
And it just obviously didn't resonate with you. That's just, and some people it does. And that I was going to say, I have seen when I've gone to see Kundalini classes, they have been more like that, where you're like really physically moving your whole entire body from the base to the top, and
is that like a voluntary action or involuntary?
Yeah, I feel like it's a voluntary action.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but for me, it's not, it's just not for me, right? Like I would probably do the Kundalini you do. This is not something that I like to do, but I have seen it and I've gone to a couple classes and I'm like, that's just not for me.
I do appreciate that it's getting more airtime and it's becoming more commonplace. I think it can only do a world of good for us.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. Amazing.
That's amazing. I love that you offer in person and online as well, so that people that aren't local to Saskatoon can also access your services. So and to connect with you and to be in your guidance and your presence. So that's absolutely amazing. So we thank you so much, Alecia, for joining us today and sharing your story and your Kundalini energy awakening, I want to call it, experience with all of us, and what you have to offer and how that came to be. And it's really, really incredible. So thank you so much for sharing with us and our listeners today. And we wish you all the best of luck on your journey moving forward. And we thank all of our listeners for tuning in today. And of course, as usual, we are all sending you love, light, and gratitude wherever this may find you today. So take care, everybody.
Yes, take care, everyone. Thank you again, Alecia.
Yes, thank you, Alecia. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.